It's rom-com time. Hello YouTube and welcome back to Rom-Com Reviews, an 8-episode series where I watch some rom-coms and I tell you how I feel about them. On today's episode we are reviewing Sleepless in Seattle, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. Sleepless in Seattle tells the story of Sam Baldwin, a recent widower, and his efforts to get back into the dating world. His son Jonah talks about their situation on a local radio show where Sam talks about how hard it has been without his wife in their lives. Their story touches the hearts of millions of women around the world and touches Annie Reed's heart the most. Annie is a stranger in Baltimore who, for the rest of the movie, can't get Sam out of her head. She finally decides to fly out to Seattle with absolutely no plan in mind and try to meet him in person. The layers to this plot were so interesting to me because while Annie is obsessed with meeting Sam, Sam's son Jonah is simultaneously obsessed with Annie and wants her to be his new mom. And on top of that, Sam sees Annie at the airport when she lands and it's love at first sight, even though he has absolutely no idea who she is. After all of this confusion, Annie, Sam, and Jonah all find themselves in New York on Valentine's Day, where Sam and Annie officially meet in person with some help from Jonah, and they live happily ever after. Guys, I'm gonna get some backlash for this, but I'm gonna be honest, I had very low expectations for this movie after watching You've Got Mail, which was the very first episode in the series. Go give that a watch if you're interested. I was not a big fan of You've Got Mail, and I was like, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, same director, this isn't gonna work out, I'm not gonna enjoy this. Boy, was I wrong. This movie was so good. This almost took my number one, like, really good. Something that I will literally never get sick of, which I wish I saw more in rom-coms, is that trope of it's meant to be and they're meant to be together after all of these obstacles. Very good example of this is When Harry Met Sally. I will never get sick of that trope, and this is such a prevalent one within this movie. It's pretty much the entire plot of this movie. Watching these two characters somehow find each other after so many obstacles, the biggest one obviously being the fact that they are literally across the country from each other. I loved just watching them like find their way into each other's lives in very interesting ways, which I mentioned in that little summary. That airport scene when Sam sees her, the best. That was like probably my favorite, second favorite scene. I'll show you guys my favorite later on, but watching him and like his reaction to seeing her, like he has no idea who she is. He doesn't know she's Annie, he doesn't know anything about her, she doesn't know that he's there, and it's just like love at first sight. Like I just loved seeing that in there and showing that like the feelings were mutual between the two of them. Oh my god, it was just so good. My favorite scene, I actually posted it on my Instagram if you want to go check it out. My favorite scene is the very end, obviously, when they actually meet each other. A proper meeting, might I add, because they do meet before that. But when they meet on the Empire State Building, I thought that was so cute. Just the way that the backpack was placed there. And I knew it was going to happen too. I saw them walk off the Empire State Building and I was like, he doesn't have his backpack. So I knew it was coming. But, so good. I loved that little meetup right at the end. As always, I wish there was more afterwards, but this almost makes up for it just because of how cute it was when they finally met and like piecing everything together. So good. But as always, I do want to see what happens to them after they meet, especially with a movie like this. Like, it's so much build up to them finding each other, and I'm so glad we get that resolution at the end and that satisfaction of seeing them meet each other and realizing like, oh, you're Annie, you're Sam, that whole thing. But I would love to see how they realize all those other little things that happened. Like, he recognized her at the airport and that whole thing. Like, I want to see that conversation between them, and I wish we could have seen that. Something I really would have liked to see just a little bit more in this movie is just a little bit more interaction between the two of them before the very end of the movie. Yes, they met before that, they are aware of each other's presence, but a little bit more dialogue beyond just hello, hello would have been nice. This is the first rom-com I've watched where I'm almost willing to ditch all of those little like nitpicky things just because I enjoyed this movie so much. Like, I am willing to look past those because I just couldn't get over how cute this movie was. It's so romantic, so adorable. Obviously it's not realistic at all, and that's usually something that I like to see, like, oh, would this actually happen in real life? Obviously this would never happen, but I don't even care. This movie was so good and I loved it, and I'm probably gonna go watch it again right after I film this. Unfortunately, this movie won't top Notting Hill. Honestly, at this point, I don't think anything can. Notting Hill just gave me everything that I look for in a rom-com, so it's gonna be hard to top that one, but I am going to do something that I wasn't expecting to do in this series, and that's giving this movie 4.5 hearts out of 5. I wasn't going to do halves, but this one just needs to be more than 4, but it can't be 5. There's just a couple things that just had to take half a heart away, but we'll give it 4.5. Now, this week's hot shot, guys, I don't think you're ready for it, okay? This is a really big one for me, and I'm so excited because this whole series, I have been looking for a shot like this one. As you guys know, I do this whole segment because I'm really into cinematography and analyzing shots. That's why I did this whole hot shot thing and this whole series to begin with. I finally found a shot that I have been wanting to analyze this whole time, and I'm so excited to show you guys. So this one's gonna take a little bit more explaining than usual, so we're not gonna cut to it just yet. Honestly, it's pretty much just a picture, but I want to talk about open and closed form. This is something that I learned in one of my film classes here at my college, and it's something that I just love to pass on to other people because it's not like a common thing that you really hear about or know about without taking a class like this, so I just thought it was so fascinating and I would love to pass that knowledge along to other people. So the main premise of open and closed form, it all revolves around the background of a shot. So it's basically, in simple terms, open form in a shot would be life is going on around the shot. There's more to it than just that shot. Closed form, it makes it look like nothing else exists except for this one shot. A really good example of this is Jordan Peele's Us. Right when that family like interrogates the real family, however you want to call it, that closed form right there, when they are staring at their other family, it's like nothing else exists. So that's a really good example of closed form, and it's important to add here, closed form is very rare. It's used in very specific situations, and there's always some kind of symbolism behind it. There's a reason why the closed form is being used. So, with that being said, I want to show this really cool shot from Sleepless in Seattle where they use closed form. Since this is just a romantic comedy, there really isn't that much symbolism behind this shot. As you can see, they're literally just sitting there. I think in most films there is a lot more symbolism and like motivation behind using this closed form, and there's usually a huge like definition for why they're using it and what it actually means. In this one I feel like it's a little bit more straightforward, but there's not much you can do. In romantic comedy movies there's just not much to them. So for this one, as you can see, Sam and his son are just sitting there on the bench. This is right at the beginning of the movie when they're just talking on the phone for the first time with the lady on the radio station. I loved this shot so much because they're just sitting there, they're facing the camera directly, which is also, you don't see that very often, just the two of them leaning up against the wall like that. So first off, that framing just says a lot about the closed form. But in this shot, they're literally talking about how it's just the two of them, and you can see that in this closed form. Nothing else exists around them, nothing else, nobody else, it's just the two of them. I'm not sure how well I explained that. I tried my best. It took me a while to understand it in my own film classes, probably because it gets a lot more complex with like more complex films, but this one's pretty straightforward. It's a rom-com. You can see why they used it here. So hopefully it made a little bit of sense. I linked below another video about open and closed form if you're interested in learning a little bit more about it, but I was just so excited to show this. I've been waiting for it, and I'm so glad I finally found something because this is episode 7. This is the last review I'm doing of a movie. Next episode we're doing a whole top 10, so get ready for that. This was a bit of a longer hot shot this week. I was just really excited and I wanted to talk about it a little bit more than I usually do, so I hope you all enjoyed that. Sorry if that's not really your speed and you were just here for the rom-com part of it, but I hope you learned a little bit about film analysis, or maybe not, it's okay. Either way, I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, as I said before, we are doing a top 10 of my all-time favorite rom-coms, not just in this series, but every one that I've seen. I'm hoping I can keep it at 10. I don't know if I'll actually stick to that because I'm the most indecisive person ever, but the goal is 10, so we'll see if I can stick to that. Thank you so much for following along with this series. As always, my Instagram and my Twitter are linked below. Please feel free to follow me there and like and subscribe on here. And I only have one more episode left, so please go watch my old ones. I hope they have been entertaining so far, or getting more entertaining as we go. Who knows? But either way, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you next week. Bye!